everybody. This is Nicole Lotion with BPO University. We are going to take a look at something very specific today that a lot of people have a tough time with, and it's to help support our BPO Inner Circle students. What we're going to be looking at today is how to bracket the subject property when finding comps. So really it's finding the best comps available using certain steps and methods and things that I'm going to show you in this video. So number one, thanks for joining me, and hopefully you're going to get a real clear idea if you have any problem picking comps, what to look out for after watching this video. All right, well, we're here on our main website. We're going to come back here, but there's a shortcut I want to show you, and it's right down here. Has to do with the NABPOP's BPO standards and guidelines. You can actually click in here, and you can access this from the internet. You'll probably want to print it out, but what I do is I just access it as an ebook, come back and put in GLA, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Click next, and I just do a search. And here's what's going to help us out once we find the subject and see what the square footage is and know what to bracket as far as 20%, 25%, you know, what it's going to be as far as when we look at bracketing. So we'll look at that more here in just a bit. All right, well, I picked the subject property, and let's say this is for a fictitious BPO. We've got 5986 Sunshine Drive in Ferndale, and that's local here in Washington State. And what I'm doing first is just seeing if it's listed in the MLS. Selected all the different types, and I'll even go through here and select every single one possible and see if I'm able to find anything here. And so this is my local MLS. Let me point that out too. Yours may look different, but it's something that the ideology is the same. It's just you're going to be clicking on probably things that are named different or look different in your local MLS. But the concept that I'm wanting to show you guys, it applies to any MLS. So it just depends on if you're already familiar with how to do this in your MLS, or you can always call your tech support and ask them, hey, how do I do this specific thing? They'll walk you through it, and it will be easy. You should catch up on it really easy, doing it a couple times, and it should become habit. All right, so I don't see my subject property in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a map search, and I'm going to find comps. Well, I'm not ready to do that yet, but I'll come back here. So let me stop for a second. What I need to do now is go into Realist, and let me see if I've got that open. I do, and it's from my local MLS. There's a link. And what I'm doing now is I'm searching for the subject property, and let me show you here. I've got it right there. And I want to find out the square footage and the specs and the characteristics. So here's the Realist. Pretty nice. And tells everything you need to know. So this could be also where you access your local assessor. And you'll just want to verify in a couple spots the information, specifically the square footage, to make sure that that information is correct. And if it's in the MLS, don't assume that that's 100% correct. All right. So we've got the total above grade square footage. It's right here, 1,176. I'm going to also look at some of the other details, such as when it was built, and I'm going to keep track of that. But right now, we're going to just focus on the square footage. And that's right there again, above grade square footage. We don't care about gross area. That's not what's acceptable when doing BPO orders. So you're only looking for above grade. And I'm also going to look at bed and bath count. And what I'm doing on my side here is I'm writing this down. I've got a sheet, the assessor's info sheet, and it's for this property. And I'm just writing down the important information. So this is pretty much most of what I need when doing a search for comps. The other part is I'm going to do, you know, kind of take a look at some of the other things. So I've got an attached garage, and it's 312 square feet, so that's actually a one-car attached garage. When it's anywhere from 500 to 600, that's typically a 2, and on upwards from there it could be a 3. And so kind of look at that. So I've got 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,176 square feet. built in 1989. It's 0.20 of an acre, single-family property, and an attached one-car garage. That's pretty much everything that you need to get started. I'll go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to now go to the map search. This is the best way to do a radius search, and it's going to help you pretty much find the best comps within doing one search, and that's the goal. So now I'm going to go ahead and type in, again, the subject property here. Kind of hunting and pecking here. You have to forgive me. I'm using just one hand. All right. So this is what most people have the toughest time with when doing BPOs. So I'm going to locate the subject, and this is in a suburban location. I'll go ahead and just zoom out here a little bit. Then I'm going to draw a radius and just drag it, and you'll see it's 0.86 miles, and I want to hit 1 mile radius. There you go. It can be kind of tricky sometimes. I'm going to click OK. That's part of it. The other part is you want to select what type of property it is. You don't want to do any of these extras. You may want to put in a certain range, like going back 6 months for sold properties. You want to select all active, pending, contingent, all that good stuff. And then you want to go ahead and at least put in year built for bracketing and square footage. Now let me show you what that looks like. So we're here in now POP's BPO standards and guidelines. If the company that you're working for has their own criteria or guidelines, use that. If they don't have one or they have adopted the BPO standards and guidelines, use this. All right, so the subject property was 1,176 square feet. It's going to fit in this range right here for square foot. So I'm going to be going upwards 20% and downwards 20%. So then all you need to do is grab your calculator, put in the subject property times 20%, and that gives you 235 square feet above and below. And then you can just go 1176 minus 235, and let me see here, I was a little bit off, minus 235, let's see here, 1176, 235, upwards, let's see, that's subtraction, so it's at the minimum. You want to do a property search for square footage. 941 square feet is the lowest, and the highest is plus 235, there we go, is 1,411. That's acceptable for the range with 20% difference as far as bracketing the subject property within this ratio right here, okay, or that range. All right, so now we've got, let me pull up a little notepad here just to give you an idea. The range for GLA is between 941 and 1,411. All right. The other thing I want to do is age before I go back into the MLS. So let me scroll on down here. And you can also take a look at acres. In this case, I'm just going to try and pick properties that are very similar to that 0.20 acres. All right, here's age. The property was built in 1989, so we do 2011 minus 1989. Some of you guys might be able to do that just off the top of your head. And so here, it's within 22, it's 22 years old. So then there's the range right here, 11 through 30 years old. You're going to be doing half the age for the minimum and 10 years for the maximum. So you're going to go 1999 is the tops, and half of the age would be 11. As far as going downwards, I'm just going to go 10 years. That seems to make a little bit better sense. So 1979. Again, the subject property was 1989. All right. So we've got 1979 to 1999. All right, and that should be good enough, along with 1 mile radius, to be effective in pulling up comps that are going to be comparable right away. And you can use any of them. So then it's just going to be which ones are more like the subject property. All right, so I've got the square footage in there, and Let me see if I'm missing anything here, because it should be pulling up some properties. We've got it as 1 mile from the subject, square footage, and year built is bracketed in there. I don't have anything selected here, and nothing down there as well. So we should be seeing some comps pull up, and there's nothing. And that can happen. And so let me go ahead and take some stuff out here. And let me just see that this is activated correctly. So I'm just putting in a little bit more criteria. And nothing's pulling up. So if something's wrong, let me go ahead and do this again. MLS sure are tricky. And if you're not very comfortable with your MLS, go do a training class as far as how to use your MLS. You'll get some clock hours, and that way you can just zip right through. It's going to definitely help you when you're doing your BPOs. All right, let me go ahead and draw a radius here. We'll go out a mile. There we go. Okay, so we've got that selected. Sometimes when you put in too much information, it doesn't work real well. All right, let me take that out. So it already knows, based on this, we're looking for actives, pendings, contingents, and solds, residential properties, and I don't have anything in here. So let me take this out. I think that's what's the problem, because it already has the address. That's exactly what the problem is. All right, now we can go back in here and put in 1979 to 1999. And again, the square footage difference was right here, 941 to 1411. All right, and now we can see there's 151 matches within 1 mile. So that's helpful. What you might want to do is put in more bracketing. That's a lot to look through, and so you can put in a range here as well and see if that helps. It definitely did. Cut down on this. Now I've got 67. I'm going to actually go down here and do 1 story as well. And let me see here for style. We've got, and you don't want to be this specific, but if you have a lot of comps, this doesn't hurt. We've got a ranch style. Let's see if it's listed here. Looks like that's not available. All right. So I have plenty of comps, and I've bracketed things correctly up here. And I've actually gone down to very minute details as far as the information goes. As far as the acres goes, most times you don't need to do that. What you can do too is do bed bracketing and bath bracketing, but that's very, very specific. So I think this is good enough. I'm going to go ahead and do a search, and it's going to pull up 62 comps, and that's a lot. But as you can see, there's not very many actives, and there's sure a lot of sold. I'm going to go to the end here. Yep, the majority sold, so it's a good thing I didn't bracket a little bit more or get more specific, because it would have left out a bunch of the actives. What you can do is play around with what it looks like here as far as the display, and that way you're doing a visual. So you know what the subject property looks like, and let me show this to you again. Go back in here, and you've taken pictures by driving by it. So we've got pretty much a rambler or a ranch-style house. And then we've got the specs and all that good stuff. And so now we're going through and trying to find properties that have 1-car garage. And that could be something that you also bracket for as well. And so now we've got some information here. We know that everything is acceptable within the NAPOP's BPO standards and guidelines. So we're just trying to get it as close as possible to the subject. And so in here, we're going to be looking at age and square footage specifically when picking them. And you'll also want to take a look at price. When you go into Realist, it's a lot of information, but when you come on down here, there's an estimate. and estimated values right here. And that's super helpful when you're doing your BPO. And take a look at the last time they did that. It's very recent. And so this should give you an idea, as well as the assessed value, although a lot of assessed values are completely off because of how the market's been going. And so if you can look at sold history, that's another important thing. And these are all clues. So you're pretty much putting your investigator's cap on and saying, okay, what information in here is useful? So we've got the sold information down here as well. So this property is actually not worth as much as what the person purchased it for back in 2008. So that's good to know. All right, let me minimize this. So it's estimated around $208,000. So these are very low, but they're on the market right now. They could be distressed property, so you want to look for that in the comments, see if it's a short sale, see if it's acceptable to do that in your BPO. And you might have to dig around in there and see which properties are going to be more like the subject property. This one is extremely close. Remember, the subject is 1,176 square feet, built in 1989, one-car garage. This has everything. Very similar in design and appeal as well. All right, this one has a two-car garage. We'll come back and see if there's another one. This one doesn't have a garage at all, so that's not necessarily good, and this one doesn't as well. We'll see what other properties are. This one's wonderful, very close in everything. So there's my second active comp, and this one is also fantastic. So I've got my 3 active comps, and again, bracketing subject property. I already did that, so I know that it's extremely close and they're usable. So then I want to look at other factors, the assessed value, the last sold value, that type of stuff. I'm going to go through the solds now and try and find properties that have a one-car attached garage. They're close in age and square footage. This one is great. The price is really low, and so I'm going to keep that in mind if I find other ones that are better, and see if this one is, again, yeah, this one is actually a distressed property. And so that one's not going to be the best one to use unless they're asking for that. Here's another one. This one is super good. And so there's going to be a lot of them that are very, very good. So if you wanted to, you could actually go through and bracket even more for the solds, but you'd have to be careful to not bracket too much so you couldn't find actives. All right. And so you can see that you'll have plenty of choices for some properties, and sometimes it will be very difficult. So this one is actually a little bit worse condition, but it's got, excuse me, a lot of the same amenities. I'm just going to leave it. And this one looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this one looks great as well. So we're getting up into the 200. This one is in the neighborhood. So I'm going to be picking these. I'm going to go ahead and deselect the ones that were up at the top, very low price range. You want the numbers to be extremely tight and close together. So we've got one here that's not going to work. That's way too low. Let's go up to the actives, and I'll show you here. We're in the range of about 190,000 for actives. Yep, all real close, all completely comparable because we already bracketed very well in our search. And then these guys are between 190 and 200s. And now we can see that we've got enough. And let me go ahead and just count real quick and make sure I've got 1, 2, 3 sold. And I know I've got the actives or pendings, contingents, subject to inspections. Make sure you've got 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. All right. So I've got them. Now, I typically would export this information and use automation software. What you may want to do is have this be a CMA, or you can go ahead and narrow the results. So let me show you how to do that. And again, your MLS may be different, so I'm going to go ahead and narrow these guys to only the ones that were checked. You can change the view and make it very easy to see. You can turn this into a CMA, and that way hopefully you'll have dual screens so you can have have the comp information on one screen and your order on the other screen. All right. And so let me go ahead. I'm just going to go back because you could actually just do it based on pulling up information like this, copy, paste, type, type, type if you're not using automation software. All right, so this should show you how easy it is to look for comps and choose the best available comps. Everybody's going to be a little different as far as, if somebody did the same BPO, they're probably going to be using some of the same comps, but they're going to obviously not be using exactly the same comps as I am. And so the same goes for you. You probably would have picked different ones than I did, but I wanted to show you, what you need to be looking out for so you can be successful and not have to go through and pull comps a ton of times. You can just do it once, do it well, get the order done, and you're ready to go. All right, so from here, again, I'm going to show you guys the link for the now published BPO standards and guidelines. You can find that on the homepage. Just go on down bpo-university.com, click on full supporter and advocate of BPO SG, learn more, takes you to the standards and guidelines, and it's an ebook. That's an awesome way to do it. You can also log into your account in the BPO Inner Circle and pull up them in the agent toolbox. So let me see if I can point you here in the right direction. If you haven't printed out the BPO standards and guidelines yet, you will want to do that. You want to keep it close by. You want to post up a couple things on your screen, or excuse me, post it up by your computer. That way it's extremely handy. It's here in the agent toolbox. Now pops BPO standards and guidelines. Click to view. There you are. You can print out just a couple of important pages. I would say the GLA page, the year built, and the range as far as what's suburban, urban, and rural. So these pages would be super great. And then let me go ahead on up here and show you, see if I did that right. There we go. This page would also be very helpful, what type of setting and how far you want to go out when pulling comps. All right, so I showed you guys my favorite way of pulling comps. And again, it's doing a radius search, so you're already in the right area. You're not going farther than a mile. If you have problems finding good comps within that, you'll have to go out further and make comments. And hopefully you don't have to, but you'll get better at this the more you do. And if you have any questions, let me know. You can email me directly, nicole@bpo-university.com. You can send a note through here in our BPO Inner Circle, or you can give me a call, 360-224-6988. And again, this is intended for anybody that's a BPO Inner Circle student. If you are not one yet, take a look at our BPO Inner Circle website. We've got virtual coaching available, and you'd go to www.bpoinnercircle.com. Take a look around anything, and feel free to click on the Register tab to get started. All right, everybody, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Good luck to you, and I hope you are able to now pull comps lightning fast with very good accuracy, and you just fly right through it and you know what you're doing. All right, take